Thik hai, red wallon ko fix ka ki puri story dobara, lictita hoon, word count thodi bahi hai. Ending scene ab pura resolve hota hai. Climax final third mainland kata hai. Or woe ek line jo source si milty thigh woe reword cardi high. Ivy Reeves's elbow bent 4 degrees past, where a human joint was built to bend, and 19 ambassadors in the gallery above forgot, for 1 second, how to breathe. Vasquez Thorne gripped the rail with 3 arms and felt something in his chest that had no name in any coalition language. He wanted her to tap out. He also, against every instinct 15 cycles of teaching had built in him, wanted her not to. She didn't tap. She turned into the pain instead of away from it. To understand how a training deck instructor ended up rooting for the smallest, weakest species in the room, you had to go back 3 days. To recruit barely reaching his lower thorax, who hadn't so much as blinked when he asked her what her species could possibly offer a war. She told him about deserts crossed on foot for no reason but curiosity, about a genetic code unraveled before half the coalition understood crop rotation, about a moon reached simply to prove it could be reached. Audacity, sir, she'd said. Pure, unfiltered audacity. The deck had gone silent enough to hear the air recyclers. Vask had studied her for a long moment, weighing the word, before deciding on the only response a serious commander could give a serious insult to 3 centuries of doctrine. Then let's see what audacity is worth, he'd said, and pointed her at Gormach. 340 kilos of armored muscle, evolved on a world that ground bone to dust for sport, had charged her like a landslide with somewhere to be. She hadn't tried to stop him. She'd stepped sideways, let his own weight carry him past her, and dropped her heel into the one unarmored seam behind his knee. He'd gone down roaring. She'd finished it with a strike to the throat, no flourish. Just a hand that knew exactly where a windpipe sat on anything that breathed air the way she did. Gormach woke up in medical. The scoreboard, when it finally updated, displayed a result nobody on that deck had believed was possible to type. Vask had found her at 2 in the morning, still working a training dummy like it owed her something. He asked how many humans could have done what she'd just done. 1,000, easy, she said, wiping sweat off a face that hadn't finished healing. I wasn't even the best in my own gym back home. She looked at him. People keep deciding what my species can't do before they've asked. I don't love it as much as they think. That number sat in his chest, like something swallowed too fast and too cold. Which brought them here, to a gallery packed with representatives of 19 species, and to Sylve, whose kind processed a battlefield 7 times faster than a human nervous system could fire a single command, who had once caught a live plasma bolt out of the air because she'd solved its arc before it left the barrel. Sylve didn't walk into the ring. She arrived in 3 places inside it at once, testing the human's guard before Ivy had finished raising it. I watched your last match, Sylve said, voice like something composed rather than spoken. I won't hand you the same mercy he did. Wasn't asking for mercy the first time either, Ivy said. What followed had no clean shape. Sylve struck faster than the human eye could track and caught only air, 3 times running, because Ivy was never quite where the strike expected to find her, not by prediction, Vask realized, watching from the rail, but by something closer to instinct sharpened on worse beatings than this one. When Sylve finally caught her arm and began folding the joint the wrong way, the whole gallery held one collective breath. Ivy didn't pull free. She leaned into the talk, let it spin her body around Sylve's own extended arm, and for half a second the faster, stronger, better engineered warrior was the one without her footing. A heel found Sylve's ribs, not the hardest kick Ivy had, just a question asked with a foot. Sylve's skin flared red, her species' own signal for pain made visible for everyone to see. That worked, Sylve said, something like delight under the words. Wait till I mean it. 20 exchanges later, chasing a combination that should have ended things, Sylve overextended. Ivy's fist landed square on her sternum and drove the air out of her in one ugly sound. The sweep that followed wasn't fast. It didn't need to be. It only had to land where Sylve's weight had already gone. Then Ivy was behind her, forearm locked under her jaw, and the room watched something built to outthink a battlefield run out of options against a species that simply counted seconds in its head and refused to stop counting. 30 of those seconds, by Vask's own tally, before Sylve's fingers tapped a fast, furious rhythm against the mat. The gallery didn't applaud. It argued in 19 languages all at once, while Sylve lay coughing and Ivy stood over her cradling her own ruined elbow like a problem that belonged to somebody else. High Commander Thal found Vask in a room too quiet for what had just happened outside it. "Tell me what this costs us," Thal said. 3 centuries of doctrine built on knowing exactly what every species in this coalition can and cannot do. "It costs us the doctrine, sir. We built 42,000 human enlistments into support roles because we assumed the species would shatter under real combat load. 97% kept out of the fight entirely. And now we know they don't shatter. They take the damage and build a method out of it." Thal was silent long enough that the silence became its own answer. "Draft new protocols. Full combat integration, effective immediately. Every human application we rejected gets reopened." He paused at the door. "Find out if this one is rare, Commander. If Earth has 42,000 more like her, I'd rather know it from you than discover it in a war." 3 days later, fresh out of the regeneration bay with her elbow set straight, and her eyes still holding the memory of pain her body had already forgotten, Ivy stood at attention in front of him. "I'm opening a new division," Vask told her. "Human combat integration. You'll help build the curriculum, train the trainers, show us everything we refuse to see." "A lot of the coalition won't like that, sir." "Then they should have asked better questions before they decided what your species couldn't do." He held out a data pad with her new rank already logged. "Bring the others, if there are more of you stationed here. I'd rather meet them on my terms than have them introduce themselves the way you did." She laughed, the first real one he'd heard since the ring, and told him she knew at least 5 stuck in engineering who'd been waiting years to hear exactly this. After she left, Vask stood alone at the viewport, watching Helios 9 turn slowly under a sun humans had named for one of their oldest gods. He opened a blank report, and instead of a summary, he wrote down the one thing that mattered. A species with no claim to being the strongest, the fastest, or the best armored in the room had spent 300,000 years turning that exact fact into a weapon. Below him, on the training deck, Ivy Reeves was already back on her feet, wrapping fresh tape around knuckles that hadn't stopped bleeding since the fight ended, getting ready to teach someone else how to fall.